The roar came first. Not the punch, not the blood, not even the man. It was the sound of 25,000 people screaming for the fall of a legend. Every camera inside the greatest fighting arena in Los Angeles pointed toward a single figure standing beneath the blinding white lights. Some people laughed, some shouted insults, others held homemade signs with only 2 words painted across them: coward, fraud. The commentators could barely hear themselves over the deafening noise. "Tonight," one of them shouted into his microphone, "the world will finally witness the end of Bruce Lee." No one in that arena knew that the greatest fight of Bruce Lee's life had not begun inside the ring. It had begun 3 nights earlier. The year was 1978. Los Angeles never truly slept. Even after sunset, the streets glowed beneath endless neon signs. Police sirens echoed through distant avenues. Jazz drifted from smoky bars. Expensive sports cars rolled past crowded sidewalks, while thousands of people rushed from one destination to another without ever noticing the stories unfolding around them. Only a few blocks away from the city's legendary fighting arena stood an old Chinese restaurant that looked forgotten by time. Its wooden sign had faded beneath years of rain. Its windows carried tiny cracks. The scent of ginger, roasted duck, fresh rice, and jasmine tea filled every corner. Inside, life moved peacefully. Families laughed together. An elderly couple quietly shared noodles. A little girl practiced using chopsticks while her father smiled proudly. The owner greeted every customer by name. Nobody expected history to walk through that door. Then, the bell above the entrance chimed softly. A man entered wearing simple black clothes. No bodyguards, no expensive watch, no sunglasses. No attempt to attract attention. Bruce Lee. Several customers recognized him immediately, but hesitated. Something about the calm expression on his face made people leave him alone. He chose the smallest table near the window. He ordered only steamed rice, vegetables, and hot tea, nothing more. While the rest of the city prepared for the biggest sporting event in years, Bruce Lee quietly ate dinner as though he were just another traveler passing through Los Angeles. Outside, dark clouds slowly gathered. Rain began tapping against the restaurant windows. Bruce lifted his teacup and watched the tiny ripples dance across the surface. For a long moment, the world became completely silent, until crash! The restaurant door exploded open so violently that it slammed against the wall. Every conversation stopped. Every fork froze in midair. Every pair of eyes turned toward the entrance. A massive shadow blocked the doorway. He looked less like a man and more like a mountain wearing human skin. Nearly 7 feet tall, shoulders as wide as the doorway itself, his fists resembled sledgehammers. A thick scar stretched across the left side of his face. People whispered his nickname before anyone dared say his real name. The Iron Bear. The most feared fighter in America. 61 consecutive victories, not one defeat. Opponents had left the ring with broken ribs, broken jaws, broken careers. Behind him poured photographers carrying cameras, journalists scribbling into notebooks, fans shouting his name. Everyone sensed something unforgettable was about to happen. The Iron Bear scanned the restaurant. Then he smiled, not kindly, cruelly. "There you are." Every eye shifted toward Bruce Lee. Bruce slowly placed his teacup onto the table. His expression never changed. The giant laughed loudly enough to shake the room. So this is the great Bruce Lee. More laughter followed. I expected a dragon. He pointed directly at Bruce. But all I see is a man hiding behind a bowl of rice. The reporters immediately raised their cameras. Flash, flash, flash. The Iron Bear walked closer. Heavy footsteps echoed across the wooden floor. Each step sounded like a hammer striking concrete. The restaurant owner hurried forward. Please, sir, don't cause trouble. The giant shoved him aside with one careless arm. The elderly man crashed into a chair. His granddaughter screamed. Bruce finally looked up. Not with anger, with concern. He checked whether the old man was hurt. Nothing else. The Iron Bear noticed. So, you care more about strangers than yourself? He grabbed Bruce's table. Customers gasped. With terrifying strength, he flipped it completely over. Bowls shattered, rice scattered across the floor, tea splashed against the walls. Wood cracked beneath the impact. The little girl began crying. People rushed backward. Journalists climbed onto chairs for a better view. Bruce remained seated. Only now he sat on an empty chair surrounded by broken dishes. Without speaking, without moving. The Iron Bear leaned closer. His smile disappeared. I've heard stories about you. They say you're the fastest man alive. He lifted the iron teapot, still filled with boiling tea. Steam curled into the air. You know what I think? I think legends are only stories until someone proves they're cowards. Before anyone could react, he poured the boiling tea directly over Bruce Lee's head. The restaurant erupted. Women screamed. Someone dropped a plate. Photographers nearly knocked each other over trying to capture the moment. Hot tea soaked Bruce's hair, ran across his face, dripped from his black clothes onto the wooden floor. Every person inside waited for one thing. One punch, one kick, one explosion. The entire room held its breath. Bruce slowly closed his eyes. A single drop of tea slid from his chin. Seconds passed. Nothing happened. The Iron Bear laughed, louder than before. I knew it. The dragon has no fire. The crowd joined him. Someone clapped sarcastically. Another customer shook his head in disappointment. Even the journalists looked confused. This wasn't the Bruce Lee they had expected. Then, Bruce noticed something. Near his overturned table, one tiny grain of rice rested alone on the floor. He bent down, picked it up carefully between two fingers, brushed away the dust, then placed it gently on the broken tabletop. Nothing else. No speech, no revenge, no anger. He simply stood, placed enough money beside the shattered dishes to pay for every broken plate, bowed respectfully toward the frightened restaurant owner, and quietly walked out into the rain. The silence lasted only one heartbeat. Then the laughter exploded. People pointed toward the door. The mighty Bruce Lee ran away! Coward! He didn't even fight back! The reporters sprinted outside before Bruce disappeared into the storm. Camera flashes chased him down the street. Questions flew from every direction. Bruce, were you afraid? Has age finally caught you? Did the Iron Bear humiliate you? Bruce never answered. He simply continued walking beneath the rain, alone. By sunrise, the entire city had already chosen its version of the truth. Every newspaper carried the same photograph. Bruce Lee standing motionless, tea dripping from his face. The Iron Bear laughing beside him. The headlines were merciless. The dragon has lost his courage. Bruce Lee refuses to fight. A legend falls without throwing a single punch. Television stations replayed the footage all day. Radio hosts mocked him. Late-night comedians turned the incident into jokes. Children repeated the insults in schoolyards. Taxi drivers argued about it. Office workers laughed during lunch breaks. The story spread far beyond Los Angeles. Across America, people who had once admired Bruce Lee now questioned everything they thought they knew. His students suffered the most. At his training hall, no one spoke during practice. The usual rhythm of punches and kicks had disappeared. One young student finally broke the silence. "Master," his voice trembled, "please tell us they were wrong." Bruce stood before the wooden training dummy. He continued practicing slow movements, calm, precise, almost peaceful. Another student stepped forward. "Why didn't you defend yourself? You could have defeated him in seconds." Still, Bruce said nothing. The students exchanged worried looks. One after another, they quietly left the dojo. For the first time in years, Bruce Lee trained completely alone. Outside, rain continued falling against the roof. Inside, only the sound of controlled breathing filled the room. Bruce struck the wooden dummy once, twice, 3 times, then stopped. His eyes drifted toward an old wooden shelf. Resting there, covered in dust, was a faded photograph taken many years earlier. Bruce gently picked it up. His thumb brushed across the smiling face of an elderly martial arts master, standing beside a younger version of himself. The frame was cracked. Time had almost erased the colors, but one object remained perfectly visible. A silver medallion hanging around the master's neck. Bruce stared at it for a long time. Pain slowly appeared behind his calm eyes, almost like an old wound had begun bleeding again. Very softly, so quietly that even the empty room almost couldn't hear him, he whispered, "I haven't forgotten." Outside, thunder rolled across Los Angeles. Far away, inside a luxurious hotel suite, the Iron Bear watched every television report with satisfaction. His manager entered carrying several newspapers. "Congratulations. They're calling you the man who broke Bruce Lee without throwing a punch." The giant smiled. "Good." His manager placed a thick folder on the table. "There's even better news." He opened it. Inside lay an official contract. Gold lettering covered the front page. Los Angeles Championship, Bruce Lee, the Iron Bear, one final fight, record prize, live across America. The manager grinned. He accepted. For the first time since entering the restaurant, the Iron Bear's smile slowly disappeared. He stared silently at Bruce Lee's signature, then looked toward the dark city outside his window. For reasons he couldn't explain, a strange feeling settled deep inside his chest. Not excitement, not confidence. Something else. Something that felt very much like fear. 3 days. That was all it took for the entire country to decide that Bruce Lee was finished. Every television station replayed the same humiliating footage. The boiling tea, the overturned table, the silent walk into the rain, the mocking laughter. America watched it again, and again, and again. Sports analysts declared that Bruce Lee had finally lost the fearless spirit that once made him legendary. Radio hosts joked that even old restaurant furniture had put up more resistance than the dragon. Newspapers competed to invent crueler headlines. The legend who ran away, the man who forgot how to fight, the dragon without fire. The words spread across every corner of Los Angeles. People repeated them inside coffee shops. Taxi drivers argued about them at red lights. Construction workers laughed while eating lunch. Teenagers copied the insults outside schools. Even people who had never watched martial arts before suddenly believed they knew exactly who Bruce Lee had become. A coward. That single word followed him everywhere. Yet Bruce never answered, not once. Not to the reporters, not to television stations offering interviews worth thousands of dollars. Not even to the martial arts organizations begging him to defend his reputation. Silence. Nothing except silence. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of Los Angeles, the Iron Bear had become a celebrity. Luxury restaurants welcomed him with applause. Nightclubs reserved private tables. Businessmen lined up to shake his hand. Magazine covers called him the strongest fighter alive. Children asked for his autograph. He accepted every compliment with the same confident smile. Bruce Lee is afraid. I already defeated him. The fight is over before it even begins. Crowds loved every word. The more he spoke, the louder they cheered. Late one evening, the Iron Bear entered an exclusive private gym reserved only for elite fighters. Inside waited two enormous men. Both were almost as tall as he was. One had a shaved head covered in old scars. The other carried hands so massive they looked capable of crushing bricks without effort. Neither man smiled. The gym owner locked the entrance behind them. No cameras, no journalists, only silence. The Iron Bear tossed a towel over his shoulder. So, you finally accepted. The bald giant nodded. We don't want the prize money. The second giant crossed his arms. We want Bruce Lee. The Iron Bear studied them for several long seconds. You understand what you're asking? The bald fighter slowly smiled. Perfectly. The Iron Bear walked toward the center of the training floor. What if one of us loses? The scarred fighter answered calmly. Then all three attack. Silence. Even the air inside the gym suddenly felt heavier. The Iron Bear finally nodded. No witnesses. No rules. No mercy. Three massive fists met in the center. The agreement was sealed. Bruce Lee would never leave that arena victorious. Across the city, Bruce trained alone. No audience, no applause, only the quiet rhythm of breathing. His small dojo looked almost abandoned. Wooden floors, simple walls, old training equipment worn smooth by decades of discipline. Sweat rolled down his face. Every movement remained sharp. Every strike carried frightening speed. His students secretly watched through the half-open entrance. None of them dared interrupt. Bruce attacked the wooden dummy with unbelievable precision. Palm strike, elbow, kick, spin. The dummy shook violently. Wood splintered beneath repeated impacts. Yet Bruce never appeared angry, only focused. After nearly 2 hours, he finally stopped. One young student slowly stepped inside. His name was Daniel, only 19 years old. Bruce had trained him for nearly 6 years. Master? Bruce turned. Daniel hesitated. "The whole city says terrible things about you. I don't care." Bruce quietly wiped the sweat from his forehead. Daniel lowered his eyes. "But I do." Bruce remained silent. Daniel took one careful step closer. "I was there." Bruce looked at him. "I saw the restaurant. I wanted to attack that man. I almost did." His voice cracked. "I couldn't understand why you stopped me." Bruce walked toward the window. Outside, rain clouds drifted slowly across the evening sky. Without turning around, he finally spoke. "When anger controls your hands, someone else controls your life." Daniel frowned. "But he humiliated you." Bruce smiled faintly. "No. He revealed himself." Daniel stood speechless. Bruce continued looking outside. "A man's greatest victory isn't defeating another man. It's defeating the anger inside himself." Daniel wanted to ask another question. Instead, Bruce quietly picked up his old training bag. "I'm leaving." "Where?" Bruce answered without looking back. "To prepare." The door closed. Daniel remained standing alone. For some reason, those two words felt much heavier than they sounded. The following morning, the city awoke to breaking news. Every television station interrupted regular programming. Every radio broadcast stopped. Every newspaper printed a special edition. One announcement, one fight, one night. Bruce Lee, the Iron Bear. Los Angeles Championship Arena. Record-breaking prize money. Live across America. Tickets sold out in less than 1 hour. People traveled from every state. Hotels filled completely. Scalpers charged thousands of dollars for a single seat. Commentators called it the biggest martial arts event in American history. The excitement became impossible to escape. Even people who hated fighting wanted to witness Bruce Lee's final humiliation. Fight night arrived. Los Angeles looked different. Helicopters circled overhead. Police blocked entire streets. Television trucks surrounded the arena. Searchlights swept across the sky like giant white swords. Thousands upon thousands of people poured toward the massive stadium. Some wore Bruce Lee shirts. Others carried banners supporting the Iron Bear. Arguments broke out in the parking lots. Security guards struggled to control the crowds. Inside, the atmosphere felt almost unreal. 25,000 spectators filled every seat, every balcony, every staircase, every possible space. The lights dimmed. The giant screens flickered to life. A booming voice echoed through the arena. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the biggest fight in Los Angeles history." The arena exploded. The noise shook the walls. People stomped their feet. Whistles screamed through the air. Flags waved wildly. Television cameras swept across the roaring audience. Millions more watched from home. Backstage, Bruce Lee quietly wrapped white tape around his hands. No nervousness, no fear, only calm breathing. An elderly arena employee approached him. "I've worked here for over 30 years. Bruce looked up politely. "I've never seen people hate someone this much." Bruce simply smiled. "Hate is loud." The old man looked confused. Bruce finished wrapping his hands. "But truth is patient." The employee never forgot those words. The announcer's voice thundered once more. Introducing the undefeated monster, the 61-fight champion, the Iron Bear! Fire erupted from both sides of the entrance. The giant stepped forward wearing a dark red robe. The crowd erupted into deafening cheers. He raised one enormous fist. The arena answered with another earthquake of applause. He looked unstoppable, invincible, untouchable. Then, the lights suddenly went dark. Complete silence. Only one spotlight remained. It pointed toward the opposite entrance. Please welcome Bruce Lee! A lone figure slowly emerged from the darkness. Simple black fighting pants, black shoes. No dramatic music, no fireworks, no celebration. Only Bruce Lee. The crowd stared for one heartbeat. Then the boos began. Thousands of voices merged into one merciless storm. Coward! Go home! Run away again! The insults echoed from every direction. Some people laughed. Others pointed toward him exactly as they had inside the restaurant. Bruce never reacted. His eyes never left the ring. He climbed the steps, stepped between the ropes, and stood perfectly still beneath the white lights. Across from him, the Iron Bear smiled confidently. The referee called both men to the center. You know the rules, the Iron Bear interrupted. There won't be enough time for rules. The audience laughed. Bruce said nothing. The referee signaled both fighters back. The bell rang. The sound echoed across the entire arena. The biggest fight in America had begun. The Iron Bear charged first. Every step shook the canvas beneath his feet. His right fist flew forward with terrifying force. The punch sliced through the air like a cannonball. Millions watching on television believed it was already over. Bruce moved. Barely. Only a fraction. The giant fist missed his face by less than an inch. A powerful gust of wind swept Bruce's hair backward. The audience gasped. The Iron Bear attacked again. Left hook, missed. Right elbow, missed. Flying knee, missed. Bruce wasn't running. He wasn't retreating. He flowed around every strike as though he already knew exactly where each attack would land. The commentators shouted over one another. I've never seen reflexes like this. He's reading every movement. But why isn't he attacking? The Iron Bear grew frustrated. His breathing became heavier. His swings became wilder. Bruce still refused to strike. Then, without warning, something moved outside the ring. 3 black-clad security guards suddenly turned toward the entrance tunnel. One of them reached for his radio. His face turned pale. High above the arena, hidden in the shadows beyond the bright lights, 2 enormous silhouettes slowly stepped forward, watching, waiting. Neither man had bought a ticket. Neither man was supposed to be there. And both of them wore the exact same cold smile. The bell had barely stopped echoing when the impossible happened. 2 enormous shadows leaped over the barricades. Before security could react, before the referee could even turn around, both giants landed inside the ring with enough force to shake the canvas beneath Bruce Lee's feet. The entire arena froze. For one impossible heartbeat, no one spoke. No one breathed. 25,000 people stared in complete disbelief. Then chaos erupted. The referee sprinted forward, "What are you doing? Get out of the ring!" The taller giant grabbed the referee by the shirt and threw him harmlessly across the canvas. Security guards rushed toward the ropes. Fans stood on their seats. Television commentators shouted over one another. "This wasn't scheduled! This isn't part of the fight! What is happening?" Millions watching across America leaned closer to their televisions. The cameras never stopped rolling, because history was unfolding before their eyes. The Iron Bear slowly turned toward the two newcomers. Neither of them looked at Bruce. Instead, they looked at him. The taller giant nodded once. "The deal." The Iron Bear closed his eyes. For a long moment, he didn't move. Then, very slowly, he nodded back. The audience misunderstood everything. They believed all three men were standing together. Only Bruce understood the truth. He had known from the moment he accepted the fight. This was never meant to be a championship. It was meant to be an execution. The referee tried to stand. Blood trickled from his forehead. "This fight is over!" No one listened. The arena had completely lost control. Security struggled against hundreds of screaming spectators pressing toward the barriers. Journalists climbed onto tables for a better angle. Flash after flash illuminated the ring. Bruce slowly removed his mouthguard. His breathing remained perfectly calm. 3 opponents, 1 man. He quietly looked at each of them. No fear, no hatred, only complete focus. The taller giant rushed first. His punch could have shattered concrete. Bruce pivoted. The fist crashed into the ropes instead, snapping them like old wire. The crowd exploded. Before anyone could process what had happened, the second giant attacked from behind. Bruce spun. His elbow struck the giant's ribs with surgical precision. A sickening crack echoed through the arena. The man staggered backward, gasping for air. The Iron Bear charged at the exact same moment. 3 attacks, 3 different directions. Bruce disappeared into movement. To the audience, it almost looked impossible. He wasn't faster because his muscles were stronger. He was faster because every movement was perfectly timed. Every step, every breath, every strike. Years of discipline transformed into pure instinct. The taller giant swung a devastating hook. Bruce slipped underneath it. A lightning-fast palm strike landed beneath the giant's jaw. The man's eyes rolled backward. His body collapsed like a falling tree. The arena erupted. 1 giant was down. The second roared with fury. He grabbed a steel folding chair abandoned near the ropes. The audience screamed. He swung it toward Bruce's head. Bruce jumped. The chair smashed against the ring post instead, bending around the steel. Before the giant could recover, Bruce landed behind him. 1 precise kick struck the back of his knee. Another struck his shoulder. The giant lost balance. Bruce caught his arm, used the man's own momentum, and threw him across the ring. The canvas shook violently as the second giant crashed onto his back. Silence. Then, 25,000 people rose to their feet. The boos had disappeared. No one laughed anymore. They had just witnessed something beyond ordinary combat. Now, only 1 man remained. The Iron Bear. He slowly wiped blood from the corner of his mouth. For the first time in years, he looked uncertain. Not because Bruce was stronger, because Bruce had shown mercy. Twice. The Iron Bear lowered his stance. This time, no holding back. Bruce nodded. I never intended to. They moved. The collision echoed through the entire arena. Punch, kick, block, counter. Neither man gave an inch. The audience couldn't even follow every exchange, their movements blurred beneath the white lights. Minutes felt like seconds. Sweat flew through the air. The canvas became stained with blood. Bruises darkened beneath exhausted muscles. Still, neither legend surrendered. Finally, the Iron Bear trapped Bruce against the ropes, his massive fist pulled backward. Everything became silent. One punch. That was all it would take. Bruce lifted his eyes. And then he saw it. A silver medallion hanging beneath the giant's neck. Time stopped. Bruce's heartbeat echoed louder than the crowd. His breathing slowed. His eyes widened. Impossible. That medallion. He knew every scratch, every tiny dent, every mark left by time 20 years earlier. As a young student, Bruce had placed that very medallion around the neck of the man who had changed his life forever. His master. The man who had taught him that true strength began where anger ended. The final punch never came. Bruce stepped backward. His voice barely escaped his lips. Where did you get that? The Iron Bear frowned. What? The medallion. The giant instinctively touched the silver pendant. His expression changed. My father gave it to me. Bruce felt his chest tighten. Who was your father? The giant answered without hesitation. Li Chen. The name struck Bruce harder than any punch. Around them, the arena had become completely silent. Even the commentators stopped speaking. Bruce whispered almost to himself. Li Chen. The Iron Bear looked confused. You knew him? Bruce slowly closed his eyes. Memories flooded back. Rain, fire, a mountain road, his wounded master, and one fearless man refusing to abandon him. 20 years ago, Bruce's master had been hunted by ruthless criminals after exposing a powerful smuggling network operating across Asia. Li Chen had not been a martial artist. He had simply been an honest man. When everyone else ran, Li Chen stayed. He carried Bruce's unconscious master through a burning warehouse, while beams collapsed around them. He managed to save the old master, but before escaping, the building collapsed. Li Chen never came out. When Bruce reached the ruins, he found only ashes. His master survived. Li Chen did not. Before dying, Bruce's master asked for one final favor. Never let my life become the reason another family suffers. Bruce had never forgotten those words. He had given the silver medallion to Li Chen before the rescue, a symbol of gratitude, a promise that one day he would repay the debt. Bruce opened his eyes. He looked directly into the Iron Bear's face. 3 nights earlier, the moment the boiling tea ran across his face, he had already seen the medallion. He had recognized it immediately. That was why he never fought back. Not because he was afraid, because he could not raise his hand against the son of the man who had saved his master. The realization hit the Iron Bear like lightning. His breathing became uneven. No. His voice trembled. My father. Bruce nodded slowly. He died saving the man who gave me purpose. The giant's hands began shaking. My father always told me. that one day I would meet a man who owed him nothing, yet would honor him anyway. Tears gathered in the corners of his eyes. The arena watched in complete silence. The Iron Bear lowered his fists. I mocked you. I humiliated you. I poured boiling tea over your head. Bruce answered softly, I know. And you still refuse to fight. Bruce smiled gently. I wasn't protecting myself. I was protecting your father's honor. The giant could no longer hold back his emotions. He dropped to one knee. The strongest man in America, the man who had never bowed to anyone, now lowered his head before Bruce Lee. I'm ashamed. Bruce immediately reached forward. He took the giant by the shoulders. No! Stand. The Iron Bear looked up. Bruce's eyes held no anger, only respect. Your father stood for what was right. So should his son. The giant slowly stood again. He wiped away his tears, then looked directly into Bruce's eyes. One request. Bruce nodded. Fight me. Not as enemies, but as two men carrying the honor of those who came before us. Bruce smiled. This time, I'd be honored. The referee slowly returned to the center. His voice shook. Final round. The bell rang one last time. No hatred remained, only respect, only discipline, only honor. They fought with everything they had. Every exchange earned thunderous applause. Every movement displayed years of sacrifice. No cheap tricks, no hidden attacks, no anger. Only martial arts in its purest form. The final seconds arrived. The Iron Bear gathered every remaining ounce of strength. He launched one final punch. Bruce stepped inside it, redirected the force. The exhausted giant lost balance. His head raced toward the canvas. Thousands gasped. Bruce could have let him fall. Instead, he caught him. One arm around his shoulders, one hand protecting the back of his head. The same man the world had called a coward now refused to let his opponent suffer. Complete silence. Then, one person began clapping. Another joined. Then another. Within seconds, every single person inside the arena stood. 25,000 people applauding. Not the victory, the compassion. The applause continued. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. Many people cried openly. Journalists lowered their cameras. Even seasoned commentators struggled to speak. The Iron Bear slowly raised Bruce Lee's hand high into the air. His voice echoed through the silent arena. Tonight, I did not meet the strongest fighter in the world. He paused as tears rolled freely down his face. I met the greatest man I have ever known. The arena erupted once more, not with noise, with respect. The next morning, America expected another story about punches. Instead, every newspaper printed the same headline. A true legend is remembered not for the men he defeated, but for the life he chose to save. Years later, people forgot the prize money. They forgot the championship belt. Many even forgot who won the official match. But they never forgot that night in Los Angeles. Because legends are not created by power. They are created by character. And on that unforgettable night, beneath the brilliant white lights, Bruce Lee proved that the strongest fist can win a fight, but only the strongest heart can change history.